that we need to continue to stand strong to defend everybody's rights and freedoms.
Hey guys, how you doing today? So, let's make sure we don't fall in the water. So, I thought I'd make a second video on this trip and this hike, and here we go. Now, maybe a little longer than needed, but I thought it's important. I have a solution, a minor solution, that I'd like to suggest to help everyday Canadians in their expenses. A minor little solution that could help everybody, that the government could impose tomorrow, and Canadians could feel a difference. It's not a big difference, but it is a difference. Okay? But I'm going to get to that at the end. I want to give a lot of context to where I'm going with this beforehand. Did you know? This is where I made the video. No, I'm kidding. Yesterday's video, I was sitting right there. Anyway, no, that wasn't what I was going to ask. Did you know that in 1917, Canada introduced the war measure income tax? I don't know, income tax in Canada to cover the costs of the Great War. They implemented a tax of 4% on personal income. 4%. Over $3,000. Do you know what the average income of Canadians were in 1917? The average income was less than $1,000 between 1917 and 1939. Less than $1,000 a year was the average income. Yeah. But the income tax, the government knew the hardship upon Canadians was not their intent with an income tax. It was just a set offset their budgetary needs. So they implemented a 4% income tax on Canadians earning over $3,000 a year. $3,000 a year. It's 3 times what the average Canadian made every year. Okay? Keep that in mind. 3 times. If I was to convert that to today's dollars, that means that the income tax threshold would be $58,000 in today's dollars. You can make $57,000 today under the 1917 income tax code and not have to pay a dime of income tax. $58,000. That's pretty much what the average income of Canadians is today. But in today, in 2022 income tax year, the maximum exemption rate was $14,000. That's $34,000 less than what it was in 1917 when they implemented income tax. It's just income tax. Just income tax. You know, the governments around the world are always, screw the world. Governments in Canada always trying to justify why they need a new tax. Trudeau government brings in a carbon tax, says, and they get the justification from the people by saying, we're going to give you back the money. We're going to take the carbon tax and we're going to give it back to the people. That's not really what he does. He takes the money, gives back about 40%, and then uses the other 40% to fund things like a war in Ukraine that produces more carbon than Canada does. Hell, they were just in Parliament, what, yesterday or Friday? I don't know, something like that. And awarding another $1 billion of Canadian dollars to Ukraine war effort. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, standing up for democracies is what Canada does. Defending democracies is what Canada does. But, you know, there comes a point where Canada needs to look after Canada. And frankly, the economy in Canada right now is in desperate need of $1 billion. Just think what $1 billion could do to progress Canadians. Just think of all the health care that could be provided with $1 billion. Think of the tax relief $1 billion could give Canadians. Matter of fact, I'm going to get to $1 billion tax relief program at the end of this video. But nope, we're going to take that money from a cause and a tax to prevent the carbonization of the world, to support carbonizing the world. Because let's be real here, with all those munitions and all the equipment and everything that's going on over there, just the tanks Canada has sent that apparently are being returned to us, blowing up. I'm not sure about that one, okay? So that was just hearsay to me, but this is what I heard. They're being returned to us anyway. We're going to use the money to fund this, which makes a lot of sense. Well, maybe they're not using carbon tax money to do... Oh, God, I'm walking into trees here. Maybe they're not using carbon tax money for this. Maybe they're using GST money for this. Either way, doesn't matter. Still using Canadian taxpayer dollars. All those taxes, no matter what you call it, GST, carbon tax, income tax, business tax, it's all Canadian dollars. Canadian taxpayer dollars. You, me, everybody in this land is paying for this. At the same time, we're going to the grocery store and we're choosing lesser quality food because it's cheaper. We're choosing to accept made because we can't survive anymore. And the depression has debilitated us to the point we would rather just leave than carry on. And the government has made that easier for us too. I wonder, with all the new arrivals in Canada, over 1 million people in the last year, or 1 million plus in the last year, how many support these endeavors? Or how many are just going along with it because it's a new country and they don't want to speak out of line for fear of reprisal of the government, an eviction from their new life? But, you know, back in 1991, we introduced the GST tax. It's applied to everything because it was so convoluted, our tax system was so confusing and convoluted that nobody could figure it out. And government was losing tax money to businesses that could figure out how to manipulate the system, pay a lesser tax or whatever. So we implemented the GST to cover all them taxes. And Canadians have been paying for that tax ever since. Yeah. That was to cover all the boutique government initiatives. That's what that tax was for. That's why it was applied to goods and services and applied to the general public instead of manufacturing. Because before the GST, those taxes applied to manufacturing and business taxes, basically. But the businesses lobbied to get it lessened for them. Share in the expense of living in such a beautiful land. I don't know. Yeah, I had gripes about GST. Still do. But I don't mind paying my taxes. I've said that before. Taxes are what create this great land. Did you look at your income tax today? Okay? Single person. Today. When you get your paycheck. Minimum. Low income. Minimum. You have lost 23% of your wage on your paycheck. Did you know? I know a lady who works part-time at Tim Hortons because she's a single mother. Part-time. She only works 20 hours a week. Okay? And she was talking with her co-workers, and they discovered that the full-time employees only take home $250 more than she does for a 40-hour week. $250 more to work 20 hours. That's less than minimum wage. Okay? 20 hours. That's like $12.50 an hour you're taking home. Like, the cost of living today in Canada is just out of this world. That doesn't cover nothing. And then the government takes those taxes and they turn around and give $1 billion away. Sign billion-dollar contracts without Canadians' consent. Demand Canadians take the product that they bought, that Canadians don't want, that Canadians did not authorize, that Canadians told you to stop doing. And now you want us to take more of it. It's kind of funny, you know. All the way along, the government keeps picking and picking and picking. So out of that tax, that income tax, now you go home with 23% less. All right? Okay, now you got to pay GST on everything. Everything you buy, they charge you GST. Everything you buy, everything you do, they charge you carbon tax. It's all built into the price. And they don't even just charge you the carbon tax and the GST. No. They charge you the carbon tax, the fuel tax, and then they GST both them taxes on top of that. So you're taxing tax, which is supposed to be illegal or unacceptable to any government, but not to this one. Hey, Winmore, I thought you were getting to a point here, and you actually have an idea. I do have an idea. You see, back in 1991, they didn't want to impose the GST as a burden upon low income. They also didn't want to burden small businesses. So they created a safety net, much like they did in 1917 when they introduced the tax, the income tax. They didn't want to burden Canadians with these taxes. That wasn't the goal of the taxes. The taxes was to increase revenue for the country so that it could afford to survive in a modern world. So when they introduced the GST in 1991, they said anything under $4 does not get GST applied to them. And that still stands true today. Go buy something for $3.99. You'll only pay the PST. Which is, you could probably tie this into what I'm about to say to the federal government. Apply it to your provincial governments as well. You want to do something for today's economy and for the Canadians that are suffering because of inflation? Your photo ops with grocery stores is not going to do it. Okay? Even if you did decide you were going to implement a tax on them, and they would force it upon the citizens on their pricing, even if you did decide to do that, that wasn't going to do jack. Christopher Freeland came out just this week, said, hey, we're going to remove the GST from new builds of 4 units or more housing to alleviate the pressure on Canadians. That doesn't do jack shit for Canadians. That does great things for major construction firms. Oh, you just lowered their bottom line. Woohoo! Do you think that money is going to be passed on to the residents that buy those units? No. You still have to pay your property taxes. You still have to pay all the taxes to buy that property, to rent that place. You're going to be paying the owner of that place their mortgage plus. Because don't make no doubts about it. Property owners are in it for a profit. They're not buying land up and renting it out to you to make ends meet or to, cover costs. No, they're there for a profit. That's why one of the best investments these days is income property. But they're not interested in alleviating the suffering of Canadians. Never have been. You can see it in the attitude this week. I don't give a damn about Canadians. Just look at Trudeau's post on X or Twitter or whatever it's called now. Saying that those people who choose to stand up for children don't deserve a place in our society? Really? Really? You know that there were a lot of people there that just moved here last year, within the last year, because of your immigration policy. A lot of these people that just got here standing up for children. And you're telling them they don't deserve to live in our society? You're the Prime Minister of this country. You're supposed to rule for all Canadians. And you tell Canadians they don't deserve a place in our society? Your ignorance, your incompetence, your division has created the hurdles that Canada has to climb. Canadians have to climb. When they stand up to you, what do you offer them? More division, more spite, more spit. So let's talk about a solution to get to the other side. My suggestion, and it's a minor solution for all Canadians. You want to do something for the Canadians? Help their pocketbooks, help their grocery bills, help their rent, help everything that Canadians have to deal with in the economy that you've created. In 1991, the dollar is equivalent to $20 today. Sorry, no, that's not accurate. It's worth $2. Sorry, in 1917 it was worth $20 to today's dollars. I got my numbers mixed up. It's worth $1.96 today, the 1991 dollar. But because since 1991 till today, no government has done anything to alleviate or change this policy, I'm gonna say, drop the GST on anything under $10, even though it should be only $8 right now. But you've been gouging us for over 30 years now. Come on, inflation, you know, compete with inflation. It was $4. No one had to pay tax on. I used to be able to go to Tim Hortons and buy 4 coffees and not have to pay tax. Today, I pay tax on one coffee and a glass of water, basically. So drop the tax. Drop the tax and allow Canadians to get off this perilous journey we're on in Canada. Welcome to the Fringe. Welcome to the Fringe.